Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Hollywood Kitchen. And I am so grateful today. I have got Eddie Muller, and we are going to cook. And by cook, I mean Eddie's going to make cocktails. And we're going to talk, right? We're going to talk about all about his new book, Eddie Muller's Noir Bar, his fantastic new kids' book, Feral Kitty and the Case of the Marshmallow Monkey. And we are going to have a great conversation and, of course, make something. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Eddie.
It is great to be here, Carrie. We have tried to set this up for quite a while, and I'm glad you were patient. And now we are finally doing it, and I think we're going to have a good time. I so appreciate how organized and just proper you look there. I'm a little overlit. I'm a little warm here, but this is I am actually in my kitchen. You'll notice that the lights that we noticed just moments ago had gone out behind me are now back on full blast. So there's gremlins at work here tonight, but we'll work around.
And I am wearing my Joan Crawford apron gifted to me by your colleague, Alan Rohde.
Very nice of Alan to do that. And how appropriate that I think one of the cocktails I'm going to make for you tonight is indeed a Mildred Pierce. So fits right in.
Excellent. Excellent. So I always like to ask this, like, when did you first discover the genre of noir? Because you seem born into the world, as many of us know, because your dad wrote about boxing. You were born in San Francisco, which is also a mega noir capital. So when did you first fall in love with this genre of film?
When did I do it? Discovering it and falling in love with it are kind of two different things. So I would say I was probably 13 or so when I started recognizing it and deciding, that I would stay home from school to watch certain movies on TV. But then I really kind of fell in love with it, I guess. Before I wrote my first book on this subject, but it wasn't really, I had to kind of get deeper into it to really form this lifelong appreciation of it, because now it's actually kind of deeper than the movies. So yes, Thieves Highway when I was about 13 kind of got things rolling, and now it's just there's no end to it now, obviously.
Definitely. Well, I'm just so grateful to you and everything that you and all of your colleagues have done, because I fell in love with these films in college, and it's one thing to see them on TCM, which is of course great and we love, but seeing these on a huge screen with an audience, there's just absolutely nothing like that. And I am so incredibly grateful that you guys continue to give us all that experience.
I thank you very much. And of course, we go back a ways, Carrie, because you were coming to the very earliest festivals at the Egyptian Theater that the American Cinematheque invited me to program back before it was Noir City, before we actually created the Film Noir Foundation and started calling the festivals Noir City. It was Side Streets and Back Alleys was the name of the festival back then. And I remember you making quite an impression coming into the theater, looking very much like the Black Dahlia or something. And it was great. And I remember we encountered each other again later on at UCLA. I think it was for a nitrate screening of Nightmare Alley, the original Nightmare Alley, a nitrate print of that. Yes. So, and of course, you've been volunteering at that festival for years to help the Film Noir Foundation sell its merchandise and things. So you've been a big part of the whole thing all the way along, Carrie. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. And I remember that screening of Nightmare Alley because I felt so I don't drink anymore because of my kidneys, but I felt so drunk after seeing that on nitrate. I felt dizzy. I couldn't even drive home. I sat in the parking lot at the UCLA archive for a couple hours because I'm like, I just can't drive right now. I'm too overwhelmed by this film. It was just so mind-blowing to discover that for the first time that way.
Yes, I know the feeling very well. I had a similar experience when I saw Black Narcissus on a nitrate print at the TCM festival a few years ago. It was just kind of mind-boggling. Yes.
Oh, that's
But we like to have our minds boggled this way.
it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Indeed, it
Yes.
is.
It is. You know, another film, a noir that blew my mind the first time I saw it on a big screen. I've always loved, of course, In a Lonely Place. It's one of my all-time favorites. And for ages, I'd seen it on TCM, and sometimes I would even have it playing in the background while I was doing other things around the house because the dialogue is so beautiful. You can almost listen to that dialogue like a radio show or something. And a long, long time ago, the Bing Theater, which sadly has been demolished now, but the Bing Theater at LACMA here in Los Angeles, they showed In a Lonely Place. That was the first time I'd ever seen it on a big screen. And I just went out to my car afterwards and I just sat there and started crying. It just absolutely devastated me.
I totally understand. It is, I cite that as my favorite film of all time. And I've seen it many, many times over the years. I remember seeing it first when I was a teenager at the Castro Theater in San Francisco on the big screen. And it's a film that I routinely revisit virtually every year. I'll watch it every year. And it grows with you. As you get older and mature, the movie ends up meaning different things to you at different times of your life. And I just think it's an absolutely fantastic film. And I think tonight we're gonna make a cocktail in honor of In a Lonely Place. And for you, because you're not drinking these days, we decided that we'd make one that has no booze in it. So
okay.
There you go.
And even as a non-drinker, I was so excited to get this book because it's so much more than just cocktail recipes. I mean, it is that, but there's like incredible photos in here. It's so artfully laid out. And there's like stuff about the films and also even about the drinking habits of the people in these films. I mean, there's really
which is not always a good thing.
Not always a good thing, but it is par for the course. And there's just so much in here for any fan of the genre to appreciate, far beyond just the cocktail part.
Thank you. That was planned, and I'm very happy that a lot of people have responded that way. That it's like I see a lot of the reviews on Amazon and things where people say you don't have to be a drinker to enjoy this book, and that was certainly the intention. And I do appreciate your pointing out how great everything looks, because the photographs, those were all by a great guy named Steve Legato, took all the pictures. And we had a prop stylist, Kelsey Muller was the prop stylist, so all those garnishes that look so precariously balanced, she knew every little trick in the book to do that. But the overall design was by a fellow named Paul Keppel, who's just a genius, and I cannot thank him enough for making this book look so glorious. So thank you for noticing.
Oh, definitely. I could tell a lot went into this, and this is a real treasure of a book.
And I should point out that I made the cocktails that are in the book. That it was great because the publisher, Running Press, actually flew me back to Philadelphia, where Paul has his studio and they have their home offices. And the four of us, just hung out in Paul's studio for like 3 days and just made cocktails and photographed them and designed all the fun little artful things that you see in the book that go into the setups for each of those cocktails. I did a lot of eBay shopping in advance of doing this because I was like, I gotta find a set of keys for a Jaguar with a little key fob that says Jaguar on it, so it can go with Gene Simmons and Angel Face for her car, and all of these things were done so that the real fans, I won't even have to point those things out. They'll just look at the photographs and see the little clues in the photos and know that, oh, I get it. That's what this represents. So I guess they call the kids call those Easter eggs in the computer apps and things, right? But there's Easter eggs in this book as well.
Oh, definitely. I noticed them in this too, because I am so psyched. I cannot wait to share this with my 11-year-old nephew next time I'm home in Georgia. And I'm kind of the aunt to a lot of my friends' children. And I noticed that it's a fun book for children, but if you're an adult and a fan of these films, there's so many references all throughout this book that a kid isn't going to get, but an adult certainly will.
Well, Carrie, you need to tell people what that is, because this is the very first time anybody has seen this book on social media. I mean, it has not been promoted at all. So tell the folks what that book is.
This book is called Kid Noir, Kitty Farrell in the Case of the Marshmallow Monkey. And
Yes.
it's so beautifully illustrated. And I love the posters. He's squawked by night, nut crazy, snake down. The possum always rings twice. I was like, oh my God, I love that. So clever. And I love just the way this cat goes on like this film noir journey. It's so like a kid's cat version of the Maltese Falcon. And it's just so fun and entertaining and really, really enjoyable. I can't wait to share this with my friends' kids.
Thank you. It was very fun. I wrote that with in collaboration with a woman named Jessica Schmidt, and Forrest Burdett, a young guy up in the Pacific Northwest, was the illustrator. And of course, the ulterior motive for this, Carrie, was that when the publisher asked me if I would do because they came up with the only thing they had when they approached me was this idea for a line of books called Kid Noir. And I said, well, I'll do this if it's going to be in black and white. And of course, you can see there are splashes of color, but largely it's in black and white. Because I wanted young kids, and it's for ages 4 to 8, and I wanted young kids to get used to this kind of imagery so that when they see a black and white movie, they won't freak out. You know, it'll be like, oh, this reminds me of that book that I really liked, you know? So, and they even let me do a little, probably one of the toughest things I ever had to write, Carrie, was that the thing in the back of that book where they said, we're going to give you 1 page to explain in text what is film noir. And it's one thing to explain it to a college classroom. It's another thing to explain it to 4 to 8-year-olds, right?
Right?
And you know how sticky everyone is these days about what you can and cannot say and what is politically correct and you know all of this stuff. And so those were all big factors in doing the book, which is where Jessica was such a huge help, because she had a great deal of experience with children's books. And, you know, she just told me when I was straying into dangerous terrain and like, don't go there, Eddie, don't go there. You will, you know, so that was a big help. It certainly sped the process along. And, you know, the first thing I'll just admit is that it wasn't originally going to be a cat. Speaking of cats, Tizzy, hold it, hold it, hold it. Oh my God. She's got my mic cord wrapped around her leg. Okay, she almost pulled the entire computer over. Okay, see, cats, up to no good, up to no good. She just wants to be a star. She wants to get in on the action, you know?
Right.
So, initially it was like, so what do you want to do? Do you want to write a story about a little boy or a little girl or whatever? And after you realize how sticky some of that gets with kids' books, I just decided let's stick with animals instead, right? I mean, there is a little girl who figures prominently in the story, but mostly it's about the underworld being the animal world, coexisting with the people and having their own codes and own languages and everything. It's very fun, very fun. So thank you for having that here as well. I appreciate that.
Oh,
that comes out. I don't know when you're posting this, but that book will be out on. I think the pub date is September 19th.
Oh, okay. I could just wait till then to post it, actually, if you'd rather me do that. But
no, whatever you want to do. It's good to have. I mean, you can order it now. I'm sure it's on Amazon, or you can order it directly from the publisher, Running Press, or your favorite local bookstore. It's all good. It's all good.
This would be a great Christmas present too for people to pick up.
I'm very excited about how many people are going to buy that for their grandchildren, their children, the whole thing. It should be really really fun. And and as you said in your intro there, you definitely got it. I imagine that the parents will get the references throughout the book, you know, movie titles popping up here and there, dialogue that will be familiar from these noir films, but the kids won't get it until they're old enough to watch the movies, and then they'll figure it out, right? That's what he was talking about. I get it.
Well, plus I feel like kids today didn't grow up in the same world whatsoever that I did or you did. So I really hope that they will discover classic films and fall in love with it through this book, through TCM, through all these other things that exist now.
Well, you know, people worry about that all the time, and I don't know what I can tell you other than, you know, thank goodness for TCM. But you know, when I was growing up, yeah, there were tons of rep theaters all around San Francisco where I went and got my film education. But there was also TV, but I saw movies on TV with commercials, right? Always with commercials until TCM came along. I mean, pretty much any movie you watched on TV was going to have commercials. And you know, when you're a teenager, getting to far-flung repertory cinemas and things isn't the easiest thing in the world. The challenge now is that all of this stuff is so readily accessible, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there is more access to these movies right now than there ever has been before. So if I remember distinctly learning about the movie Detour when I was a teenager, and the only way I could see it was to buy TV Guide and look through it every week to see if it was playing. And then if it was, you know, Carrie, this was pre-video cassette recorders. So I had to set an alarm clock and get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch Detour on TV, you know. So I had my obstacles as well to becoming a cinephile. So I do think that a lot of younger people are still going to get the bug. I mean, they're going to become classic film fans. I mean, I've spoken about this a number of times at my festivals and even on air on TCM, just how often I hear from people, and it's wonderful when they're older folks saying, I saw this when it first came out, or they're older folks. We hear a lot, all the hosts hear a lot. You know, when it's like a 55-year-old person will write to us and say, you know, I watched all these movies during COVID with my mother or my father or something, you know, and it's a generational bonding thing. But I hear just as often from young people who either their mother or father is teaching them to become a film fan, or they're finding it on their own. You know, they're just discovering stuff on their own. So, you know, in some cases, I know people who become very good friends of mine who the movies were their substitute family, right? Like they didn't have a particularly good home life, so they really turned to movies to sort of be their support group. You know, if you got John Wayne and Randolph Scott and Barbara Stanwyck as your support group, that's pretty good, you know. So I'm not so worried about, you know, we're losing it. The next generation won't care at all. You know, I just don't think that's necessarily true.
What you mean? I get young people on my cemetery tour, and like a year or so ago, a young woman that was like in her early 20s texted me after the tour that she couldn't wait to get home and watch Peter Lorre movies. And I was like, that's why I got out of bed today. Thank you so much.
There you go. Yep, I did an event last night where a young man from Portugal came up to me and had me sign a couple of books for him, and he was so kind of overcome because he said, you know, it was my poster book that got him interested in movies. He got it, his father gave it to him for Christmas, and he just loved it so much. That was his gateway into watching these movies. And it was so sweet because when I signed his book, he asked me to sign it to him and his father, who was back in Portugal, so that he could enjoy the book, but then he was going to give the book to his father. And it meant so much to him that it would be signed to the both of them, so that it was about their connection to the movie. So that was wonderful.
That's beautiful.
So are we going to make some cocktails?
I think we are.
I haven't had a cocktail yet tonight, Carrie. I gotta tell you. So I'm champing at the bit to make a cocktail.
All right. Let's get to it.
Okay. What shall we do for? I'll tell you what we're going to do first, because you're wearing that Mildred apron. I'm going to make for you. I wish I could hand it to you.
Right.
A Mildred Pierce. Now, if you get the book, and you know this already, I explain up front the basics of making cocktails. I don't go through it with every single recipe, but tonight we'll do this, and it's actually pretty simple. So you do want to put your glasses in the freezer to make sure they're cold, especially if you're using stemware and you're going to end up with a proper cocktail in a stem glass up, instead of something on the rocks. And I'm going to make this Mildred Pierce so that it's up, so that you see the beautiful color and you don't have to worry about anything else. So I'm going to do this by putting some ice in this mixing glass. And this is a very easy cocktail to make, and I'm crediting the original creator of this, a bartender, mixologist named Abigail Gula, who created this cocktail. It's a very simple one because all the proportions are the same. So you don't have to, it's perfectly balanced. So this is lime juice that I'm using. And this is 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice going in there. Next, we have Aperol, which is an orange liqueur. You get the exact same amount of Aperol. Here's the one that's going to be a little tougher for some people to find. It's pamplemousse liqueur, which is grapefruit. And this is, as you might imagine, a cocktail in honor of Mildred, because these are all very California citrusy things. The one thing that is very not period correct for this cocktail is that it uses mezcal. And of course, I use Vida mezcal, not spelled the same way as Vida in the movie, but close enough. So, and all of these were the same proportion. That's that. Actually, I already made a mistake, because this, hang on, but an easy one to fix. Because this has lime juice in it, you do want to shake this. You don't want to make it in a mixing glass. You actually want to shake it. So you want to do this. Doing that really helps integrate the citrus. So any kind of citrus or any fruit juice that you put in a cocktail, you want to make sure that you shake it instead of stir it in a mixing glass. Now, here's where I have to pull all my cables and everything over to the freezer to get my glass. So I'm leaving you for a moment, Carrie, but I'm coming right back. And when you do that, you get a glass that looks nice and frosty, just like that.
Nice.
And then overage. Now, what you want is I have a very bad orange here, but I'm going to show you a little trick. Hang on. This orange, normally I would just see. Jesus, I pulled my cord out. Hold on. You can tell I don't normally do things in my kitchen, but what you want to do is cut this, and then normally I would just use a vegetable peeler with the orange, but this orange is not the freshest orange in the world. So I'm making the garnish in a slightly different way. So by just taking that off, so you get your little orange peel. And you want to just twist that on there and have that be floating in your Mildred Pierce. So that, see, I know you want to have that, don't you? But sorry, I wish I could. I know we talked about this before, and I wanted you to have some helper there with it pre-made, so when I reached out, it could appear on your side of the screen. But
I know, I wish I had someone else around to help. That would be very nice.
oh wow, that is good. Okay. I'm
Probably very refreshing
myself.
after a day of making fried chicken and pies.
Oh, very Mildred, that's exactly what you need. And I hope you noted in the book how well we recreated Mildred's diner set. You know, that was, if you could see what we actually did, it was just like a phony photo backdrop, and we had the tablecloth on a little table. It was, and a little, I'm trying to remember the woman's name now. You may know her, who made the she sells stuff that's movie related things, and she has Mildred's Fine Food coasters and napkins and things like
yes,
that.
I do know her. Yes.
Is it Lara? Lara?
Kate Gabriel. Kate Gabriel.
Yes, Kate. Kate. That's it. Kate Gabriel.
And by the way, speaking of Mildred, where I live is actually 5 minutes from the house that was the exterior in Mildred Pierce. So yeah, and I heard during lockdown it was actually for lease, the house. So I got a photographer friend and did a photo session on the lawn in a vintage day dress with a pie. And
I've seen that picture. That's a fabulous photograph.
That's right in front of the Mildred Pierce house.
Here's to you, Carrie, for that.
Yes, I've got my mocktail here. It was funny because
that Mildred Pierce is like, that's like Kool-Aid for adults.
The villager walked up that day and I was afraid he was going to call the police or kick us out or something. And he saw me on the lawn with my little pie and he said, look, my girlfriend loves old movies. I get why you're here. Carry on.
Oh, that's nice.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, because sometimes it's really sad when the people don't appreciate where they live. And you know, there were people who used to live in the double indemnity house who didn't like it because there were so many gawkers, but now it's owned by a woman who totally gets it, and she's completely into it and leans into it really hard. And the tragedy was, there was one in San Francisco where people came and gawked so much at the place at 900 Lombard Street that was Scotty Ferguson's apartment, you know, Jimmy Stewart, that they built, and they redid the entire facade and built a wall around the whole place because they didn't want people coming. They want to see the people coming to look at the house. So that beautiful structure is no longer visible to the public. I mean, how weird are people? I don't know.
Shame.
Anyway. So that's a Mildred Pierce, and you can have that up like I just made it, or on the rocks the way it's depicted in the book. And these days on the rocks basically means one rock. You want one big ice cube because it melts more slowly than a bunch of small ice cubes, and then the drink gets diluted. So if you use just one ice cube, a bigger one, so you want to have those handy, you know, a little silicone ice tray. And they make
about
like
the giant
2-inch ice cubes.
It's funny you mentioned about the giant ice cube because I was at a bar with a friend recently. I ordered a mocktail and the ice cube was like that big. And I just kept looking at it going, why are they doing one that big? It doesn't make sense. But now it makes sense that you've explained it that way.
As long as they're putting it in a glass that allows the same amount of, you know, the beverage to be in there, and it's not the ice cube isn't displacing the drink itself.
No, I thought that's what it was kind of doing.
Yeah, but it just and still, see, I don't like to make my cocktails in the glass. I prefer to make them in a shaker or in a mixing glass, and then pour them into the glass over the ice cube. I just prefer that because then it's less diluted. If you put all the ice in and then shake it up, or stir it around in the glass with a bunch of ice cubes, it gets watery and it's not as good.
That
Anyway,
makes
that was that. Okay, shall we do another one?
Let's do another one.
Okay, very good. This one, I will now use the mixing glass, is in honor of Joan Blondell. Because we just had, this will be a tip-off as to when we're doing this show. They just had Joan Blondell's day on TCM on Summer Under the Stars. And she is just so fabulous. But it was such a treat that a friend of mine, whom I've known for years, named Jim Morton, he's an expert on trash cinema and East German cinema. He has wonderful blogs about both of these. He discovered this terrific recipe for a Joan Blondell cocktail that was created in Havana in the early 1930s as evidence of her popularity back in the pre-code era. And Jim tried it and he liked it, but the original cocktail was made with gin. And Jim tried it with rye whiskey instead of gin, and he actually preferred it that way. And then when I tried it, I said, this is fantastic, but I was now into making this book, and I said, you know, I can do this cocktail in honor of her in Nightmare Alley, which is really the only noir film that she really made. And of course, once a bartender changes an ingredient in a cocktail recipe, it allows them to rename the drink. So I've rechristened it the Xena. Actually, my friend Vince Keenan is the one who said, you got to call this a Xena. This is really good, you know. So anyway, here's how we're going to do a Xena. I'm going to actually do this without the ice first, and I'm just going to do this guy here. You want sweet vermouth, but I'm using this Antica, Carpano Antica, which is like a high end when it comes to sweet vermouth. And I'm putting in about a little less for me, 3/4 of an ounce of that. This is Benedictine. Not so popular anymore, but I tend to use a fair amount of this in my cocktails. And that is another little less than 3/4 of an ounce. Then you want your rye whiskey, and I'm going to go with a full 1 3/4 ounces of the rye whiskey. You want a few dashes of Angostura bitters. And if you didn't see that, the rye whiskey I was using was Bullet Rye, but there's a lot of great variations out there. You want to put a few dashes of bitters in it. There will be something very tricky coming up momentarily that is an important part of this. Okay. Throw your ice in there. Give this a few. The rule of thumb is 40 revolutions. Okay. Now, the trickiest part. Hang on. I'm going to try to get to my freezer again without knocking anything over. Okay. You've got a fresh glass. You might be able to tell I collect these. I collect the stemware. Now what you want, this is absinthe. This was a bottle of absinthe given to me by fans who made this. This is homemade absinthe.
Wow.
Not that I would drink a lot of this, but it is a fabulous flavoring. So what you do is you just pour a little bit in the glass, and then you rotate the glass very carefully to coat the entire inside of the glass. Then, I know this seems horribly wasteful, you throw it away. So you just want that rinse. It's an absinthe rinse in the glass. That's all you really need. Then This is a nice, I always make a little extra. You know, when you go to Musso and Frank, give you a little martini, they give you a little sidecar, they make more so that you have a little extra to go. Okay, and then you want, I'm going to use this one, to have a lemon peel garnish on this. I use one of these guys. Yes, perfect, perfect. And then let me see if I can do this so you can see how this works. You kind of, you bend the lemon peel so that the oils are extracted and kind of squirt out onto the top of the drink. And then you, if you wish, you're not required to do this, but you can always the skin side down when you do this, because that's how the oils come out. And then you just kind of, however you want to do your twist. I tend to roll mine up and then just set it in the cocktail. And then that right there is a Xena, named for Joan Blondell's character in Nightmare Alley. This is a pretty strong drink. Now you'll realize I now have two cocktails here, very different. One with rye whiskey, one with mezcal. I'm just testing this to see how it turned out. Perfectly is the answer. But I'm probably not going to drink both of those. I'm going to choose one and let Kathleen, who's working in the other room, have one of these. She's already had her Manhattan tonight, but I think she's going to get a Xena on top of the Manhattan. Now, Carrie, I believe you had asked about the cocktail, right, from In a Lonely Place?
A horse's neck.
The horse's neck. Do you have any ginger ale in your home?
I don't. I have this lemon soda mocktail kind of thing.
Well, that's not going to work. But what I'm going to do is show you how to do this, because the thing about the horse's neck is that it's all about it's not a lemon twist. It's really, this is a good looking lemon. This is off my own tree in my backyard. Okay. It's, you want a lemon spiral, because it's the twist that is the horse's neck. So all it is ginger ale with ice and then a very long involved spiral in the drink. So to do that, you take a vegetable peeler,
okay,
and the secret of doing this is to just hold the lemon and just keep going. It's just like peeling an apple or something. You just go all the way around like that. And then you have this long deal that you can wind up and drop into your drink. I mean, I don't have one right here. I'm not going to really use this, but trust me, I'm not going to let it go to waste.
You are so good at this, Eddie. I'm kind of.
You have to. The secret to peeling a lemon is moving the lemon, not the peeler. That's the secret. So if you're holding here, Gary, you have to like hold it in your hand and then turn the lemon. Just hold the peeler steady and turn the lemon. That's the secret. Not so easy, huh?
Well, I'm like afraid when I did the
Don't cut yourself. You will get the hang of it.
When I did the Cary Grant apple pie episode, I'd never used an apple peeling gadget before, and I sliced my thumb open and bled all over the place.
Okay, we don't want that. That's too noir. We don't need that.
Yeah, too noir. We don't want bloodshed in our stuff.
But that's the secret. And also, just so you know, there's one of these. If you really get into this and you want one, you can get this kind of a peeler. This has a zester up here, and this little gadget right here will allow you to do very long, elaborate spirals that are thin. So you just, you see, the secret is to move, you just kind of move the peeler just a little bit. because I already took a thing out of it. But you see, then you can get that kind of effect. Now, normally, if you're peeling for a drink and they say you just want to twist, it goes this way. The lemon, it comes down from the top. But when you do the horse's neck, you want to go around the lemon. That's the difference.
Who makes that gadget? Is that KitchenAid, or is there a certain brand that?
If you go, this is good question. Let me tell you. It says, I can't tell you because I don't have my glasses on. Confession, I can't see anything without my glasses on. But if you get in all this, I shouldn't be giving, promotional stuff and doing ads for anybody in conjunction with this book. But
We're not getting paid to say that.
There's a well, that's why when I'm making this like on camera, there's no way I can not show labels. I'm not going to go to the trouble of, because people want to know, what do I buy when I go to the liquor store? So I'm showing you these things, all, the brands. It's not something I always specify in the book, because I tell people, if you try a certain type of gin or whiskey or something and that's what you like, then use that to make your drinks. I mean, it doesn't have to be a certain brand of something. But I will say, if you're into this and you want glasses and barware and jiggers and all this stuff, there's a fabulous website called Cocktail Kingdom. And you can just order right there and they pack everything perfectly and it arrives immediately. So when I'm like in desperate need of more martini glasses or something, I just go to Cocktail Kingdom. I mean, I try to support my local, bar boutique shops and stuff, but sometimes you just need to get the stuff from them. Like these very nice mixing glasses and things come from Cocktail Kingdom. They're very good. So I wish you could actually have a horse's neck right now, but you got to go get yourself some ginger ale.
I will do that. I will do that. And I want to get that gadget so I can make, because this thing is just not.
It's not. And this is specifically for this purpose. It's shaped slightly differently. And so it's much easier to get this kind of, but you'll get the hang of it. The secret is holding it very steady, but turning the lemon. Or, it kills me when you go into a bar and I say, I would like a martini with a twist, and they say lemon or lime, because there is no such thing as a lime twist.
How could there be?
If you tried to do what I just did with a lime, it would be a total disaster. The skin on a lime is very, very different than on a lemon. Lemons are twists. Limes are wedges or wheels or something where the whole fruit is going in the drink, not just the peel. Carrie, I'm so sorry that you're not drinking these days, because I feel like I should be making you cocktails.
It's okay. I've got my little mocktail here, so I'm perfectly happy with that.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And
am
I gonna see you at the movies?
I will be there on Saturday night for The Lady from Shanghai and Moonrise.
Okay, fantastic. I shouldn't say this, but whenever I am with you, I always want to, I have to come up with one thing that, nobody else knows, but I'm going to tell this to Carrie. I was kind of disappointed because we had a wonderful idea planned for the festival this year, which was on Saturday. We were actually going to have a live reading of The Lady from Shanghai. Orson Welles' original script from The Lady from Shanghai, read by name actors under the direction of Ernest Dickerson, the cinematographer and director. And of course, we can't do it now because of the strike. That's not going to fly. So I'm hoping we can manage that some other time, because that's a really, really fun idea. And wouldn't that have been a blast?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Oh well.
A lot of noir
Next time.
films, they just have the best dialogue.
Oh, that's maybe that's the thing that people enjoy the most about it. Could be. I mean, I know I showed Larceny last Sunday night at the theater, and everybody just went nuts for Shelley Winters and how great her dialogue is in that movie. So it was good fun.
Definitely. And I'm glad you guys have kept it going, because I know here in LA we don't have the Egyptian right now, we don't have the Legion right now, but I'm so glad that you've found a way to keep these films on the big screen at the Arrow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been terrific. The staff there is absolutely fantastic, and the audiences have been great. I mean, we've gotten pretty good houses for all of these things. And in LA, it's a big switch going from the east side to the west side. Is like crossing the demilitarized zone or something. It's really weird.
Yeah, I know a
But
lot of people that do not go east of La Brea, period. Like they don't. It's very weird here about that.
it's the same thing up in the San Francisco Bay Area. When I moved from the Castro to the Grand Lake in Oakland, there were a bunch of San Franciscans who said, well, we don't cross the Bay Bridge. We don't go over there. And it made me laugh because so many people come to that festival from all over the world that it's like, seriously, you won't cross the Bay Bridge? This guy came from Spain. These people came from Germany. You know what? Anyway, people get very set in their ways.
New York's like that too. Like people do not want to like go into the boroughs from Manhattan.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's so comical to me when people have that attitude.
but you're not one of them, Carrie. You will travel to go see a movie. God bless you.
I sure try.
Well, I'm glad that you invited me to do this, and I will let me know, Carrie, as soon as your kidneys are able to handle it. I'm going to make you a real cocktail, okay?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And Eddie, thank you for all that you do. I mean, I'm so thrilled that you're on TCM. Noir Alley is just such a must appointment viewing thing for so many of us. And we're just so grateful for everything that you and Alan and Brian, just everybody does. Because I don't take these things for granted. Like I know when TCM or Noir City happens, so many of you do so much work to make that happen. And
It's I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much, Carrie. And like I said the other night, I know people are a little worried about TCM. I don't think they need to be. I don't think TCM is going anywhere. But I'm not going anywhere. So Noir City isn't going anywhere. And I think we're going to be doing this for a while yet. So hell, I got more of these bar books and kids books and all this kind of stuff to do. So
so you're going to do a whole series of both?
oh, I have no idea. That remains to be seen. I think the bar book is selling very well. I don't know about the kids book, but I think that I don't want to speak out of turn, but the fact that they created a brand called Kid Noir would seem to indicate that they're anticipating more titles in that series, right?
Oh yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. We will see how it goes.
All right. Well, Eddie, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for watching. And please stay tuned for more food, fun, and film history from Hollywood.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Carrie. You're a delight. I really appreciate being on with you.
Thank you so much, Eddie.